Hello and welcome back to the channel. Right, today I have for you by Cayi the Type 94 Chinese submarine. Now I have done one of these before, a smaller model than this by Slubin, so we'll see how this one stacks up against it. So usual format, 60-second speed build, some pics, and then we'll get to the review. So let's crack on and build. Welcome back. Right, so this little beastie, well, the instructions first of all actually are not bad, but they do suffer from one fatal flaw. It is a book which is quite nice after recently using a lot of just bits of paper from different manufacturers. It's got a little bit of extra detail, and I do like to see this at the back, a parts list, which actually does prove quite useful on occasions. Now, when I say that there's one fatal flaw, generally following these instructions is absolutely fine, but I will draw your attention to one thing, and this is a problem I've had in the past with some other models that are predominantly black, and it's this. So you have lots of these 2 by 14, 2 by 12, 16, that type of thing, plates. And as you can see, I have 2 of them that are quite long here. Now, I draw your attention to this plate here. Now, this is a 6 by 1 smooth plate, so there are no studs on the top. And it does actually say in the corner there 1 by 6. And what would be very useful is if this said 1 by 16 and 1 by 12, or whatever they're supposed to be, because trying to count those studs in anything other than natural light is very difficult. I did this while streaming, and trying to count those studs under artificial light was just horrible. So it did cause one issue. So I got to the very end of the build and I needed I think it was a 2 by 12 plate, and I had a 2 by 16 plate. So whilst I'm not totally convinced that Cayi didn't give me one plate wrong by accident, it's more than likely that I put a wrong plate in somewhere in the actual build, and was left then with a plate that was too long for what I needed for the finishing of the model. Now I have janked it together, so in this particular case I'm going to say there was nothing missing, because I do think it could well be down to me, and but everything works, nothing is warped and nothing is discoloured. Now, before I get on to the overall design, I just want to mention something I was noticing about the bricks. With different manufacturers, they either make their own bricks or they buy them from different brick sources, and there is a texture to them. Some bricks are quite soft, some bricks are very stiff and quite difficult to put together. These were dead bricks. You got no tactile feedback from the tool, so you weren't always sure when you had actually locked them in place. Normally you get a click or there's a feeling to them, but you didn't really get that with this. But it's just something I wanted to make you aware of. Now, the overall design, anyone who's watched any of my videos know that I do bang on about the design, because if you're getting a model, you want it to be as accurate as possible. Now, I'll say straight away, this isn't really. This is the actual proportions of it are all a little bit over the place, to be honest with you. The big hump for the ICBMs should be far further forward. This conning tower is too big really for the overall size of the submarine, and this is about the same length as the two Slubin submarines that I did earlier, one of which was a Type 94, the other one was the Los Angeles class submarine, but the cross section is far bigger on this particular one. However, in a way I quite like this. So, completely undoing everything I've ever said in the past, really. Think of this as a guilty pleasure, in that while the proportions are there, aren't really there, they've made a stab at it and they've tried to make it an interesting model within certain parameters, and to that extent they have succeeded. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Cayi are not my favourite manufacturer. In the past I've done an absolutely terrible Spitfire by them, and also a very disappointing C-47 Dakota. So I wasn't particularly looking forward to doing this model, but actually I really quite enjoyed putting this together. It was actually a bit of fun. And a couple of things that make it a little bit of fun. On the Slubin submarines, for instance, all these little red markers, which look a little bit like portholes but are not, they were all individual stickers, and I do quite like what Cayi have done with these stickers. They've given some detail and actually really brought it to life. It's not quite banged it in your face, but it has elevated it, which is quite nice. And they've also used quite decent size stickers as well, which has helped, rather than trying to place these sort of things individually like the Slubin one, because trying to get those in a straight line when you're putting in sort of 10, 12 of those tiny little stickers that were about 3mm wide, and trying to get them in a nice straight line was, well, difficult, shall we say. Now, you will have noticed there is a big gap here on both sides of the hull. There is a particular reason for that. But what else have we got here on it? So we have got a, if I can get it open, because it's a little tricky. There we go. That was a bit easier said than done. We do have an ICBM that you can pull out, but the party trick for this is, if I can get it, because it's just slightly tricky, there we go, you do have an interior, which is something that the two Slubin models didn't have, and generally something you don't see on submarines until you get to the rather larger price points. Now, it is relatively basic. You have I'm going to go with a reactor generator room and an engineering. You've got as I say, the missile silo that comes under the hatch there. You've got a couple of extra missiles, and you've got a, let's go with cockpit. because that's really what that sort of looks like more than anything else. It will fit a minifigure in there. You do get two with this particular kit. You get a diver, who's actually not too bad at all, and you get a marine. I'm going with. It's quite heavily armed and pretty definitely not a sailor, but one of those will fit in here. Obviously completely out of scale, but that's the way nature of minifigures, isn't it? So it was quite nice to see that. One other thing, and it's sort of party piece, which I quite liked. There's its ability. When you pull this little bit down here, you can launch your own ICBM, which, you know, appeals to the megalomaniac in all of us. So I'll just close that up a second. So yes, the design isn't brilliant, but it's kind of fun, and it doesn't seem to take itself too seriously. A little bit of a shame that the propeller doesn't spin. The whole rudder dive plane sort of assembly here tends to turn with it, which it shouldn't do. And now I've also never seen a submarine with an anchor before. To be fair, I've only ever seen submarines either on the move or tied up at a wharf, and as far as I'm aware, I didn't even know that submarines have anchors. I'm sure somebody out there will enlighten me on that, but yeah, a bit odd. And some of these little lumps and bumps that they've got at the front here, including this sort of almost anglerfish sort of thing there, no idea what they're for. But actually I quite like this, as silly as it is. And it is silly, and I for that reason I'm not taking it too seriously. I'm not therefore quite holding it by the same rules as some of the others. Fair or not fair on that, well. But this was $14.99, so a tiny bit more expensive than the two Sloopins. But it does offer a lot more, and this is about twice the piece count as well of the Sloopins. They were quite low. They were just over 200, I think. This one's just over 500. So would I recommend getting this? It's a little bit of fun, as long as you don't want a really accurate representation of a Type 94. This is great. It's nice and cheap, so you don't have to worry quite so much about the budget. I would say this is right on the edge of the pocket money range. There's a few areas in here might be slightly tricky for younger kids to do, and also possibly people that do have, if you've got any arthritis or knuckle problems in your hands, there are a couple of places in here that could be a bit tricky, particularly with the whole system of shooting out the ICBM. But you've got these smaller, very cheap submarines, and then there does seem to be quite a big gap between this and the expensive submarines. And to be fair, the expensive submarines do look very good. I haven't done one yet. I haven't had the bottle to spend £120 on a U-boat, but I dare say I will do eventually. But as I say, this is a bit of fun, as long as you don't take it too seriously and are expecting something that is absolutely spot on historically or accurate. So there we go, the Cayi Type 94. It's a bit of fun, don't take it too seriously, and it's nice and cheap. So there we go. So hopefully you've liked this video. If you have, please like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you again. You take care. Bye bye.